Hi, this is Brian King. When I was a kid, I felt invisible. People didn't talk to me. People didn't want to be my friends. I was really shy. I was really awkward. I was a weird kid who didn't know where he fit in the universe. The world moved way too fast. So to this day, honestly, one of my biggest fears is being invisible. No shit, Bri. You're on video every single day, but there's more to it than that. And what I discovered in my adulthood is a very straightforward solution. If you are concerned about living a life where you don't matter, where you don't feel significant, where nobody sees you. And the solution I learned was a quote from Steve Martin when I can't remember what show he was on, but he was asked, what advice would you give to somebody just starting out if they want to be successful? And his answer was, be so good they can't ignore you. And the person interviewing him thought that he was joking. He was dead serious. Is if you want to be noticed, you've got to be so outstanding at what you do that people can't help but notice you. And that's one of the things that I aspire to professionally and personally, to be such an exceptional human being, such an exceptional professional, provide so much exceptional value that people want to come to me, period. But let's think of that on a much more human level. I'm working on some business-related materials with a good friend of mine. And she came up with what I thought was an excellent graphic that had a picture of me sitting in my motorized wheelchair and my name and my title. And we shared it on Facebook to get some feedback. And I felt good about it. So my ego thought, of course, people are going to like it. A lot of people commented with, and this is really important, what I interpreted as criticism. And the way I interpreted it was hurtful. And I did a lot of stuff between my ears that led to me feeling sad, angry, a little resentful, how could you kind of thing, until followed my own advice, waited for these folks to clarify. I responded to them with what I thought they meant. And they responded, oh, no, this is not what I meant. This is what I meant. And let me tell you the comments to give you some context. They saw the graphic of me sitting in my motorized wheelchair with my name and my title. And one of them said, and I'm paraphrasing, that sitting in a wheelchair doesn't show resilience. So my response was, who the hell are you? I didn't say this. This is what I thought. Who the hell are you? Can only people that can stand and walk be resilient? That's not what he meant. He meant, from a marketing standpoint, there are certain images that convey resilience. And people may see this, and it may not be immediately clear that resilience is what I do. So he wasn't saying that I'm not resilient because I'm in a chair. He was saying it might not convey resilience because some of those images aren't there. See the huge difference? I heard something, I reacted to it, he clarified, and then I thought, oh, well, yeah, I can see that. And another comment that was stated was, do you want people to see you or the wheelchair? Of course, my ego went to, well, if you can't see me and your eyes are drawn to the wheelchair, that's your problem, not mine. Now, I also want to say that this was late at night. I was tired and a lot of pain in my legs. When you're not feeling good, your resilience can take a hit. And sometimes we are more resilient than we are at others. And at that point, my energy had been tapped. I was feeling grumpy because I hurt, and I wasn't at my most resilient. So keep that in mind in these moments too. If your needs aren't met as well as they could be, your resilience will be impacted. And that's what I experienced. And of course, that's not what he meant. He went on to explain that people stereotype. People have preconceived notions. And if they see the wheelchair first, they, in their own limited thinking, may not be able to get past it. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, those folks aren't my clients. I'm not working or appealing to the people that stereotype. I'm appealing to the people that are in the wheelchair. I'm appealing to the people that take care of or are married to or related to the person in the wheelchair and see the person and see that, hey, this guy Brian's in a wheelchair. He could probably relate to so-and-so. Those are the people that I'm trying to appeal to. So what I'm basically getting at here is whether the person sees the wheelchair, whether they see you, and this situation over the posts and my reactivity led me to this very honest conclusion, is whether the issue was them seeing me in a wheelchair or was the issue me seeing me in a wheelchair. Why was I getting so defensive? And the reality is I'm frightened of the rapid pace of my own disability. I still argue with the wheelchair and prefer to use a cane when I can and push myself. And that's one of the reasons I was in so much pain yesterday. I kept pushing myself to walk even when my legs hurt instead of using the chair, and I paid for it. So that was my ego. That was difficulty with my own acceptance of me in a wheelchair. And if this is something that's in your life, I have no idea where you are along that continuum. I'm much more accepting than I once was. When we first bought the wheelchair, I think a year or two ago, it was kicking and screaming practically. I resented the notion. Why would I need a wheelchair? I have to do everything to fight this, which for some might be a healthy attitude. In my case, it was, I couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't accept it. I'm the guy that hikes and climbs up hills and all that stuff. I can't be in a wheelchair. Now, the reality is I do spend a lot of time in a wheelchair. And if nothing changes, if things continue to progress as they are, I better damn get used to it. And I better be okay with it. Because if I'm okay with it, and I do encounter people that have a big issue with me being in a wheelchair, I need to be able, and I know this is easier said than done, I need to be able to look at them and make sure I see that person. To make sure that I don't see them as invisible, that I see them as they matter. Because the reality is you can't wait for other people to change. But you can create an experience for them that is so powerful. You can be so good they can't ignore you in that moment. There is a quote by Maya Angelou, which you may have come across. She said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." So if you don't want them to see the chair, give them an experience where they feel good about themselves, where they think about, man, that guy was such a good listener, or man, what a wonderful lady. She was so caring, so thoughtful. Man, those descriptions had nothing to do with the fact that that person might have been sitting in a wheelchair. So in many ways, it's up to us to change minds. They won't change on their own. They rarely do, especially if they're politicians, but that's another conversation. So find it within yourself. Find a way to show up so present, so compassionate, so focused, that the experience you give someone else is exceptional. So they can't help but see the human being you are. And although I'm not a fan of stereotypes, hopefully you can change enough minds by showing up in that way that people will begin to think that everybody in a wheelchair is like this, and gives everybody a chance instead of looking at them right away and saying, oh, I'm afraid to approach this person because this person's a fragile piece of china because they're in a wheelchair. Fragile piece of china, my ass. We're some of the toughest people you'll ever meet. So our legs don't work. So our muscles contract haphazardly and make it difficult to balance or use our limbs. Check out my brain. You shouldn't be surprised one bit when there's more wisdom you know what to do with, because of what my body has taught me, what I've learned from my circumstances. That is probably the best thing you can see about a person in a wheelchair. I'll leave you with this. When I was a kid, one of my favorite TV shows was Different Strokes. Those in my age range will know what I'm talking about. But I remember one specific episode where one of the characters, Arnold, had a friend over. It was a girl in a wheelchair. And they were talking and laughing and joking. And he suddenly gets this idea. And he goes to run upstairs and he says, hey, let's go upstairs to my room. I want to show you this and that and the other thing. And then he stops, remembering that she has a wheelchair and can't climb the stairs. So he looks to her and he says, I'm sorry, I forgot you were in a wheelchair. She got a big smile on her face and said, Arnold, that's one of the nicest things anyone has ever said to me. And that's the point. So I just wanted to share these thoughts with you. Hopefully they're of some value, they're of some use. And I also want to remind you that ideas like this, healing like this, discovery like this, are things that we do every single day in my group coaching program, which you can find at resiliencewarriors.solutions. So if you or somebody you care about can benefit from support like this, send them my way and we'll bring them into the community. And if you know of anybody else that could benefit from this video, please share it with them. I appreciate your time and your attention this morning. Have a wonderful Saturday. This is Brian. We'll talk again soon.